The invitation is, whatever you've been doing today, just to gently put that aside and just take a little bit of time for yourself. And we can start that process by just settling down, sitting quietly and comfortably, just in whatever way works, just arriving. So that's the invitation. What does it mean to arrive where you are? Okay, so gently let that go and adjust your posture if you need to. My name's Richard, and a very warm welcome to you all. Welcome to the Buddhist Society. And if you're new to the Buddhist Society, an especially warm welcome to you. This is a Thursday evening in London, but wherever you are logging in from, wherever it is in the world, good day to you and welcome. So in this hour and a half session, we'll sit for at least 3 periods in varying lengths of time. And what I offer to you is an invitation to just continue in the whole of this session, in between listening to me talking a little bit, just to continue this process of arriving. What does that actually mean? How do we actually arrive in the present moment, in the here and now, in the room that we're in, on the seat on which we are seated? So most of you who have done this class before will be familiar with the first practice that we do, which is usually the body scan. And just to say a few words about body scans, some people, certainly if they've been meditating for a while, just question why do we do the body scan? Why do we always start with the body scan? And there are a number of ways of answering that, a number of ways of orientating ourselves towards a body scan. Firstly, some practitioners, some teachers of meditation look at the body scan as really like refining our consciousness, assembling the tools of our practice before we start to meditate. So it's a sort of just gathering ourselves, if you like. Everything that goes on for us in our experience happens in our bodies to some extent. In some traditions, they compare the body and the mind like a rider and a horse, like the horse is the body and the rider is the mind. And obviously, when you look at a horse and a rider working together, there's an interplay between them. So too with ourselves, there's an interplay between our bodies and our minds. So if we can learn to actually inhabit our bodies, pay attention to our bodies, this has a direct impact on our consciousness, what's going on in our minds. The other closely related and very good reason for the body scan is that if you pay attention in close detail to what's going on in your body, you are by definition putting yourself into the present moment. You can't feel the top of your head or the soles of your feet in the past or in the future. You can only feel them right now. So we're learning to be in the present moment, and we're learning to feel, we're learning to sense. So many of us spend so much of our time thinking, occupying ourselves with our 50,000 thoughts or whatever it is the neuroscientists tell us that we have every day. And the body scan helps us just to slow that down a bit and to start to come into the present moment. So if you're bored with the body scan, just notice the boredom. So let's start by getting ourselves in a really good, comfortable position, reasonably upright. You can have your back supported to a certain extent by the chair, but try not to slouch too much back into the chair. Try to support some of your body weight yourself. And if you're seated on the floor, just again, make sure that your hips are slightly higher than your knees and that it's a position you can hold reasonably comfortably for about 20 minutes to half an hour. So really just get comfortable. And the invitation, firstly, is to relax. So if you find yourself holding any rigidity in your back, just loosen that up. And then the invitation is to place your attention in the soles of your feet or in the points of contact with the floor if you're seated on the floor. So if you're seated on a chair, it's the soles of your feet lying flat on the floor. And just allow your attention to come into that contact with the floor and to really feel it. Now you can close your eyes if that helps you. That helps you to turn your attention inwards and to feel. And you can have your eyes semi-opened, looking at a blank floor in front of you or a wall. Whatever works for you. And if you find yourself thinking about or visualizing these points of contact with the floor, that's fine. Just notice that and see if you can just gently nudge your attention into feeling. So it's the feeling sensation of the contact that we're looking for. And if it comes and goes, that's fine. That's natural, that's normal. You haven't made a mistake. Just notice that and see if you can come back gently into the feeling. And right here at the beginning of our practice this evening, I want to offer you another invitation to weave into your practice, which is when you feel, see if you can feel with kindness towards yourself. So this is a way of feeling that doesn't judge, it doesn't compare, it accepts what is, how your body is right now. It doesn't compare it to how it was. And it just notices and feels without judgment, with kindness. And then I invite you just to shift your attention to your sitting bones on the chair or the cushion. Just gently feel the pressure supporting the weight of your torso, the contact with the chair or the cushion. And again, if you find yourself visualizing or thinking about, just notice that. And with kindness, see if you can just gently nudge your attention into feeling. And when you've made a reasonable contact with your sitting bones, just bring your attention to your back. So the invitation again is simply to feel your back, the contact with the chair, or just how your back is, the spine, the straightness of it. Just scan your back area. See if you can bring some kindness to your scanning, just noticing what's going on. And then I invite you to bring your attention to your upper back and your neck and shoulder area. And in exactly the same way, the invitation is simply to feel, just explore that area, just notice what's going on. If you find thoughts are coming in and whisking you away, whisking your attention in this direction or that direction, just notice that. You haven't made a mistake. It's absolutely fine. And the invitation is to notice that and simply, gently, with kindness, bring your attention back to feeling that area of the body. And then I invite you to bring your attention to the head area. And in the same way, just notice from the crown of your head, back of your head, your ears, your face. Just notice how your head feels, resting on your shoulders, on your neck. Just feel that whole area. And then I invite you from the crown of your head just to lengthen a fraction towards the sky so that your head, your neck, your spine, and your pelvis are all aligned in a nice upright column. And just feel that column, that alignment, not rigidly straight, but just nice and upright. And again, if thoughts come in, and whisk you away, just notice that with kindness. Just notice you haven't made a mistake, and just gently nudge your attention back into feeling. And now I invite you just to get a sense of your neck and shoulder area again. And we're going to drop our attention down through the body. So dropping down from the head to the neck and shoulder area. Feel your upper back and your upper chest area. And just notice what's going on there. In your upper chest area, you might start to feel some of the movement caused by the breath. Just notice that. Drop your attention down again into your mid-torso area, around your stomach and the lower part of your rib cage, the middle of your back. Just notice what's going on there. Again, just noticing with kindness, without judgment. And if you find yourself thinking, just notice that and gently nudge your attention back. And then you can take in your upper arms from your shoulders down to your elbows. Just notice what's going on there. What's the feeling? And the invitation is also just to notice areas where you don't feel anything. So there's nothing much going on, or it's difficult to feel. Just notice that. Everything is to be included. And then drop your attention again down your lower arms, from your elbows down to your hands, taking in the fingertips, the palms, your wrists, just everything in your lower arms. Again, just feeling your hands resting wherever they are, on your thighs or in your lap. And then I invite you to return your attention to your lower torso, so your stomach area, your lower back, Just feel whatever's going on there. There may be digestive movements, maybe the movement caused by the breath in the abdomen. So without focusing on it in any exclusive way, just pick that up. Just notice that. So again, it's the sense, it's the feeling sense, the invitation is to notice. And then I invite you to drop your attention again to your sitting bones and your pelvic area. Just feel again the contact with the chair or the cushion. And then gently move your attention down your upper legs, taking in the contact with the chair or the cushion, right down to the knees. And just to remind you, the invitation is to keep it kind, keep it non-judgmental, keep it gentle. So it's the quality of attention that we're opening to here. And then drop down from your knees, down your lower legs, taking in the calves at the front, calves at the back and the shins at the front. And then drop down again, feeling your ankles and your feet, the points of contact with the floor, either the soles of your feet or if you're sitting on the floor, your ankles and your shins. And back where we started, just sense that contact with the ground again. And now I invite you just to get a sense of the whole of your physical body, from the soles of your feet to the crown of your head, taking in your back, your sitting bones, your hands. Just feel the clothes on your skin surface and the air on your hands and your face. So just get a sense of the whole of your physical body. And again, the invitation is to keep this attention kind, gentle, non-judgmental. So just getting a sense of the boundaries of our physical body. So very gently, when you're ready, you can just open your eyes and let that go. So please feel free to stretch and move, adjust your posture, take a sip of water. And I'm wondering if Wang Du, you can just flip us back to gallery view, please. Thank you. Thank you. So, if you weren't present right at the very beginning when I started this practice, just to remind you some of the reasons for doing a body scan. And we did quite an extensive body scan. Some people, some teachers go in much more detail. I tend to do big sweeps. But we went from the soles of our feet to the top of the body, crown of the head, and then we went back down again in more detail. And that upward and downward movement, if you can spend a long time doing this, it's just interesting to notice how your mind is now, right now, having done that. And just notice that. It's really interesting to see the impact of these body scans and how it works in our consciousness. So I compared the relationship between mind and body. In some traditions, they talk about it being like a rider on a horse. So our mind is the rider and the horse is the body. And as we know, anyone that's done any riding will know, or even just watching riders, you'll know that there's quite an intimate, close relationship between a rider and the horse. Also, too, between our minds and our bodies, and how our body is affects how our mind is, and how our mind is affects how our body is. So to work with the body scan in this way is really important. And I hope the invitation to weave into your practice right from the word go, this quality of being kind to yourself and being non-judgmental about what you find when you're scanning the body. I hope that you can see how this can work in our consciousness. It's not too difficult a step to see if we apply those principles to our attention, how this actually plays out in our consciousness. I suppose another way of putting that is it's just a way of making friends with ourselves. If we can make friends with our bodies, and it's sometimes, certainly as you get older, things start to go wrong with your body. I mean, none of us are as we were when we were 18, and we don't have the bodies we had when we were that age. And it's quite easy to judge ourselves for not being 18 anymore in a subtle way. So part of this practice is this learning to make friends with ourselves in a very real way, just becoming friends with this body that we are now in, however difficult it is to live in. It's the only one we have, and it makes quite a lot of sense just to get on with it. This is where we live. Let's be friends. So this non-judgmental, kind orientation is a good way to start out. The other thing I want to say before we continue with our practice this evening is it really continues from this. The neuroscientists who have been hard at work for the last 30 years or so have made some really important discoveries about how our minds are. Now, before neuroscience really got going, it was pretty much thought that after childhood, our personalities and our minds were pretty much fixed. They were formed in childhood and by our culture and our environment that we grew up in. And once we're adults, they're pretty much fixed. But the neuroscientists have been doing lots of work over the last 30 years. If you read any of the literature now, you'll come across this idea of neuroplasticity. I'll say that again slowly. Neuroplasticity. Basically, it means that our brains are malleable, workable, and capable of change. And I think that's a really important notion to have in mind when we engage in these meditative, mindful type practices, is that we are capable of change. If we encourage our thoughts to go in certain directions, those pathways become established over time if we repeatedly do so. Now, you can talk about negative thoughts or positive thoughts. I don't really want to get into good and bad, negative or positive. But what we do know from neuroscience is that if you encourage your thoughts in these practices to be non-judgmental, to be kind towards yourself, over time, this impacts on your brain, this impacts on your mind. So you start to learn these attitudes at a deeper and deeper level. And we can only do this by repeated practice. So I just thought it's quite interesting. I didn't used to pay much attention to neuroscience, but some of my friends who are mindfulness teachers have shoved that sort of literature my way, and I started reading it, and I realized, oh, this is really very interesting for a meditator. This is why repeated practice is so important, because our brains are capable of change. Our minds, we can consciously take our minds in a good, wholesome direction. And if we think of the Buddha's teachings in this context, the way from suffering is to apply ourselves to meditation with these attitudes that are wholesome and encourage us to relate to ourselves in a much easier, much kinder way. And this can impact on the whole of our life. So just to bring that to your attention, this sense of neuroplasticity. And that's one of the reasons why, if you come to these classes regularly, there's a lot of repetition. Ajahn Subhaddo, who will be teaching next week, and Colin, my colleague, who runs this class, and myself, we all do body scans. And we all do, to some extent, mindfulness of breathing, because we know that over time, repeated practice tends to impact on us in a really wholesome way. So just to bear that sort of notion in mind of why we repeat things over and over again. So many of us, by the time we get to middle age, we've had years and years of our minds going down certain pathways. And to actually change that, to unravel that, takes time. We've had years and years of going down a pathway that is, well, let's name it, judgmental pathways, unkind pathways. And to unravel that, it takes time to establish a different path, a different track in the brain for the neurons to travel down. So, repeated practice. One of the things we did in that body scan, as we moved down the torso, we came into contact just for a little bit with the breath. And of course, this is the other great teacher in meditation. The breath. You can use anything to meditate with, any object, any body part to meditate on. But the breath is particularly useful, and we know it's useful. It's got a very long tradition, and it's useful because we don't actually have to do anything just to pick up that quite definite sensation. It's what they call a gross sensation of the movement caused by the breath. And it's quite easy to pick up. It's some traditions use the heartbeat, which is much more subtle, more difficult for many of us to connect with. And you can do that if you want, but the breath is always available to any of us, really, so long as we are paying attention. So we're going to work with the breath a bit for a while, and I won't talk so much in this practice. But I invite you now to really explore this breath that you have in your body in the same way that we did with the body scan, in a non-judgmental, kind way. So if you can start this practice with the intention of making friends with this breath, each part of the breath, each new breath, see if you can just have a friendly attitude to it, explore it, not comparing it with the last breath or the last practice session you did. Just each breath being new in itself. Okay, so I invite you now just to come into your upright, grounded meditation posture again. And again, in the same way that we did at the beginning of this session, let's just ground ourselves in the points of contact with the floor. This is always a good place to start. Just a sense of being supported by the floor, being in contact with the floor. Again, just allow yourself to settle. And then I invite you with absolute kindness and the attitude of not judging, just to see if you can notice the movement caused by your breath. So we usually feel it either in the upper chest area or in the abdomen, or at the rim of the nostrils as it flows in and out. So find where it occurs most vividly for you. Where is it easiest for you to connect with that sensation? So keeping the attention very light, so we're not concentrating on the breath, we're just noticing it in a light, gentle, kind way. And if you find yourself just drifting off into thoughts, just notice that and just let them go, let them be. Just with kindness, return your attention to the sensation of the movement of the breath. You're not trying to eliminate thoughts. If they arise, just notice them. You haven't made a mistake. So the invitation is just to notice the breath. Notice when you're off the breath with kindness, non-judgmental attitude. Gently return your attention to the sensation of the movement. So if you're getting lost, just notice where you are. Just gently, with kindness, return your attention to the sensation of the movement of your breath. And when you're ready, just let that go, open your eyes. Please feel free to stretch and move, adjust your posture, take a sip of water. So well done. It's the second 20-minute sit you've done this evening. So yeah, you can just congratulate yourself, give yourself a pat on the back for being attentive. And just notice how you are right now. And we always think when the bell goes, that's the end of the meditation, but we can notice all the time. So notice how you are. So I would like to do with you one further practice this evening. I've been emphasizing this evening this notion, this sense of orientating yourself with kindness to your practice. And for many of us, that's actually quite difficult. We've grown up in cultures and education systems that have been quite judgmental. We've been assessed and tested and examined, and we've had to jump through hoops and jump over hurdles all our lives. We've had targets set for us. And all the time we've been sort of, having this sense that we've got to be doing something to a certain standard, and that doesn't cultivate much kindness in our inner selves towards ourselves. And one of the things that I found in my own practice, what oils the wheels of practice, I mean, we can learn all the techniques we like, but what actually allows us to practice with application, with integrity, and with due diligence, if you like, is a sense of actually this is kind, this is non-judgmental, this is something that creates a different relationship with myself, with my inner world. And if we can do that quite consciously, then my own experience is it just oils the wheels of whatever technique it is that we're practicing, whatever the exercise, whatever the meditation. But this sense of being kind to ourselves just allows the whole thing to flow. Well, that's an invitation for you to try it out for yourself and see if it works. It goes back to this notion I was talking about that has been given to us by the neuroscientists, this notion of neuroplasticity. We can repeatedly encourage a kind attitude in our practice to just the minutiae of the inner movements we make. Then this, over time, creates a different relationship with ourselves. And this is where kindness, this is where metta starts. It starts in these minute movements internally. And that's the practice I would like to offer to you this evening. Just a short sit this time. We'll do about 10 minutes or so of loving kindness practice. Now, there are many, many different ways of doing this. And traditionally, one starts by generating, cultivating kindness towards oneself. And then one moves that energy outwards to a series of other people. And I think the important point to make here is that this is a cultivation practice. The previous two practices were, they are sort of what generally come under the heading of calm abiding practices, learning to abide in the calm. This is more of a cultivation practice where we're deliberately cultivating a quality within us. And it's based upon Buddhist psychology, which, if we are to understand that correctly, it understands that we all have this basic seed of kindness within us. And all we have to do is nurture it, water it, tend the soil of it, and it will flower and flourish within us. It's based upon that sense that we are all essentially kind, generous humans. And if we can allow that to flow freely, then it flowers and it grows all by itself. And this practice is a deliberate, conscious attempt to nurture that soil, to water that seed within us. And there are a number of ways of doing this. And what I want to offer to you this evening is a way that takes kindness as warmth or light, whatever works for you. It can be both. This sense of like a candle flame, the warmth of a candle flame, the light of a candle flame, just gently being lit within us and then spreading throughout our bodies, throughout our minds, and then we offer it out to other people. And the offering out is crucial. I'll just talk a little bit about that, just to explain here why we do that. In the everyday world that we live in, if you take money out of a bank account, you have less in it. If you hand out money from your bank account, you generally, actually always, in fact, you have less left in your bank account. But in the world of energy, and loving kindness is an energy, what you extend to other people, what you hand out to other people from yourself, generates more within you. It doesn't work like a bank account. It's not a zero-sum game. In fact, it's the reverse. The more you can give out, the more you yourself receive. In fact, the direction of flow doesn't matter. It works in both ways. So this is a practice to encourage that flow of loving kindness. So I'll stop talking and we'll go straight into the practice, and then you'll see how it works for you. So I invite you again to sit in your upright, alert, comfortable meditation posture. An upright back, loosely upright, but not rigidly straight. Just ground yourself for a moment or two. Connect with the soles of your feet. If you're sitting on the floor, it's your ankles and shins, perhaps your knees. Just get a sense of being grounded. And then just perhaps for a moment or two, just connect with the breath again as we were doing in the last practice. Just allow your attention just briefly to rest on the movement of the breath. And then when you're ready, just bring to your heart area just a sense of warmth and light. This is kindness towards yourself. So it could be a candle flame emitting a little bit of warmth and a little bit of light. Just allow it to ignite, to flicker and to burn. And then when you're ready, just allow it to gradually grow within you and extend it upwards from your heart into your upper torso, to your neck area and into your head, downwards through your stomach area through your pelvis, down your legs, out to the sides, into your arms. Just this warmth and light. This is the warmth and light of loving kindness towards yourself. This accepts yourself, this kindness, just as you are right now, unconditionally. Let it include everything within you. Just complete warmth and light and loving kindness for all those bits of you that you wish were otherwise. All the bits of you that you like. Including everything. If you find yourself resistant to any of this, just notice that with kindness. It's okay to be resistant. It's okay not to like some of this practice. Just notice it and see if you can include that resistance in your kindness and the warmth and the light from your heart. You can even wish yourself well. May I be well. May I be happy. May I be at peace. And when you're ready, just extend from yourself, from your heart, to one other person, someone close to you, someone that is easy to like, to love. Extend that sense of warmth and kindness to them. Just one other person. And allow the warmth and light from your heart just to extend to them, to embrace them. And when you're ready, just extend that warmth and light from your heart to the whole world, to all the peoples in the world, omitting none, the great and the mighty, medium, short or small, the seen and the unseen, those near and those far away. Those born and those yet to be born. See if you can extend your light and warmth to all peoples. Radiating kindness over the entire world, spreading upwards to the skies and downwards to the depths, outward and unbounded. And then when you're ready, I invite you just to come back to yourself, to your heart. Just touch with your breathing, just reconnect with your breath just for a moment. And then lastly, drop your attention down to the points of contact with the floor, the soles of your feet or your ankles and shins on the floor. So again, please feel free to move and stretch. Take a sip of water. So that last practice was a 10-minute guided metta, loving kindness practice. And we did ourselves, a person that's easy to extend loving kindness to, and the whole world. And traditionally there are 7 stages in metta that are taught, and they include a lot of a person that's close to you, a neutral person, a difficult person, the community that you live with, the whole world, etc., etc. There are traditionally 7 stages, and I can really commend this practice to you. There are very many ways to do it. You may go onto YouTube and find other people teaching it and find what works for you. But this is one way, and working with the energy of loving kindness. But the essential point is you're cultivating something that is already within you. You're just allowing it to grow. And the other essential point I would make about it is this sense of moving something from you outwards. This creates the flow. And it's once the flow is moving, then the energy actually builds up within you. So those are the important points about metta practice. And it's always worth reading the Metta Sutta, which I'm sure you can find online if you don't already have a copy. It really it's a poem. Even the English version sounds like a really beautiful poem, and it's quite inspiring to read it slowly to yourself. So I really would recommend that as a practice that you can turn to again and again and again. And if any of these other practices that you've been doing this evening don't work for you, the body scan or the mindfulness of breathing, then try some metta practice and see how you get on with that. Yeah. It's getting on towards 8 o'clock, so I'll just sort of open the meeting up to questions if you'd like to unmute or if you'd like to put something into the chat. I don't claim to know the answers to everything, but I'll do my best. And if not, I'll refer them on to Ajahn Subhaddo next week. So please feel free to ask any questions. I think Wangdu will allow you to unmute if you want to unmute.
Richard, it's not really a question, but it's something I've observed just the last few weeks and in this lovely class you've given us. So thank you. But I started off learning this practice and it's still my favorite, but I've just realized that a lot of the time I was able to do it, but I was being judgmental because I was thinking of all the good things about myself and bucking myself up. And when I was thinking about the awful people, I was making excuses for them, and saying they're only like that because they've had horrible lives, blah, blah. But I'm getting the feeling now that it's more, as you said today, unconditional. And forget all that stuff because it's judging. Does that sound right?
Yeah, but this is quite subtle because there were a number of things in what you said that were. You said that there was a sense of you were not quite sure that you were being judgmental by thinking yourself good in some way. And what I would be saying to that is that if you can just keep it kind, kind towards yourself, however you find yourself, whatever you find yourself doing, just keep kindness towards yourself. That's the first and foremost place to ground yourself in. It's this sense of kindness towards yourself. And yes, it is unconditional. It is absolutely unconditional. If you think about love, people often talk of unconditional love, but hey, hang on. What other sort of love is that? Love is love. Yeah. So if you can keep this sense of just being, this practice is however you are, however you find yourself, just keep it kind towards yourself, first and foremost. And then from that place, you can flow to other people. So does that help? I'm not sure if I've answered the question, but I was really responding to something you said that was some sort of uncertainty about feeling good within yourself whilst doing this practice. And I would absolutely encourage you to feel good. This is a good practice to do. Allow yourself to feel that. That's not a judgment, that's a feeling. And if you're kind and accepting of how you are right now, if you're feeling good about doing this practice, that's a fine place to be. It doesn't make you any better than anyone else. That's just how you're feeling right now. And that's perfectly acceptable. To be kind to yourself and allow yourself to feel what you're feeling. Does that help?
Yes, thank you.
I mean, the other thing I would say is, if you're getting into a lot of self stuff whilst you're doing this, try reading the Metta Sutta slowly. If there's any piece of literature that I have on my bookshelves that enables me to actually get out of myself, it's the Metta Sutta. So I really would commend you to read it just slowly, and then maybe do the practice from that place. But it's a great, thank you, Meg. I really appreciate the comment and the question. And just to say another word about that, this really is about intention. You know, where you're coming from, what your intention is really crucial here. And if your intention is to come from a kind place, a loving place, even if you're not there yet, your intention is the important thing. And that's the practice, and that's what we're cultivating. But the intention precedes where we are right now, and that's important. So intention is everything here. Anyone else? We've done quite a lot this evening. We've done 3 practices: a body scan, mindfulness of breathing, and some metta practice. And this is the basic meditation class, and just see what works for you. See where you feel most comfortable with these practices. And again, I would say, you know, it's regularity of practice that's the key thing here. So a little and often is probably better than a lot all on one day. That's the usual teaching in these practices. Just before we close, just to say, next week it will be Ajahn Barry's Subhaddo, and I'm sure many of you have attended his classes before, and he's always an inspiration. And thank you all very much for your attentiveness and your diligence in coming to this class and practicing with us. This is an online Sangha, and the Buddhist Society and all the teachers in this class really appreciate your presence. So thank you all very much for joining this evening. I'm going to finish now with the closing homage, just to ground us in the Buddha's teachings and to acknowledge that this is the Buddhist Society. We're practicing under the umbrella of the Buddha's teachings. So thank you all very much for attending. The Lord, the perfectly enlightened and blessed one, I render homage to the Buddha, the Blessed One. The teachings so completely explained by him, I bow to the Dharma. The Blessed One's disciples who have practiced well, I bow to the Sangha. So thank you all very much. I wish you well.